You're watching another Nerd Stalker interview. Okay, we're live. Welcome to another Nerd Stalker interview. Good afternoon, good evening. This is Greg Blurry, aka Social Greg on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. Today we're talking with Nathan Becker, the CEO and co-founder of Foundersuite. Our topic today, which we kind of discovered on LinkedIn, he's going to discuss how to build multiple products at a startup without getting killed. We're Foundersuite. If you know his story, Foundersuite is a pretty ambitious project, where they're really hacking entrepreneurship and allowing to build, giving entrepreneurs tools that they could use to build their startup. So I'll let Nathan talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So Nathan, welcome to Nerd Stalker, live from San Francisco, and appreciate it, man. Last minute.
Yeah,
here.
thanks for having me. Thanks very much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I saw this article on LinkedIn that you kind of posted, and it was kind of a telling piece because you were just discussing in a certain way of why and how you created Foundersuite. But, let's tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how you got to even start Foundersuite, and then we'll go right into your article.
Sure. So I started Foundersuite about 2 years ago. Before that, I was consulting the startups as interim CFO, interim biz dev, interim operations, and so I was doing a lot of the same activities and services over and over again. I had built a lot of templates and spreadsheets that I was using in my consulting work. Worked with a couple hundred companies over about a 10-year period, and finally had the idea of turning it all into software. To help these companies get off the ground faster, more efficiently, help them do, common startup activities like fundraising, PR, investor relations, things like that. So that was the genesis of the idea. It basically sprung out of the consulting business, and we launched in June of 2013.
Wow, that's exciting. And right here in San Francisco, right?
Right here in San Francisco, yes. We're based here in San Francisco. Our team is spread all over the world. Have folks in Europe and other parts of the U.S. And our user base is very spread all over the world. We're somewhere around 5,500 startups on the platform, and probably half of those are outside the U.S. and the other half are in the U.S. So very global user base.
Yeah, there are startups outside of San Francisco, they say. But anyway, like I said, I was really interested in this, and thanks for your brief introduction to how you started Foundersuite. So,
Sure.
Let's discuss some of the ways you've built this multiple product platform called Foundersuite, and talk about, number one here, you said, if you're going to do this, start with an anchor tenant product. Let's talk about that. What did you mean by that?
Sure. Yeah, so when I had this idea of doing a suite, I got some pushback from people that why build a suite? Why not just pick some, simple product and work on it? And that is a very logical bit of advice. I think that applies in most startup cases. But it didn't apply to what I wanted to do, which is build this, connected set of tools that help startups get stuff done. Our tagline is tools to help startups get stuff done. We use a different word, but it's the gist of what we do. So from the very beginning, the concept was a suite of tools. But where do you start, right? Where do you get going building a suite of tools? Well, we picked one pain point, which is the fundraising process, and came out with this investor CRM, which is basically a replacement to the Excel spreadsheet. For many years, I helped startups set up their Excel spreadsheets to be able to track investor discussions. So we first tackled that first pain point of managing investor discussions, and built this anchor product, the investor CRM. So I think that's. If you're going to do a suite, at least kind of have some anchor tenant product that you can build around, which is what we did.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then your next point really is build a complementary product group around that, right?
Yeah, of course. So we've, in addition to the investor CRM, we built investor update tool or investor relations tool. The concept is once you've raised money, you got to keep your stakeholders, investors, advisors in the loop, helping out. Ideally, if you're, a smart founder, you're really kind of making your investors work for you, earning their equity, so to speak, right? They have 25% of your company. Make them add value to your company. Well, the only way to really do that is to keep them in the loop with what's going on, with what you need help with. So we built this investor update tool. And then, so that's, investor CRM almost in the middle, investor relations post-funded. Well, just recently, last week, as a matter of fact, we came out with something that fits in the earlier stage, which is this investor search tool. We got a lot of feedback from users that, the investor CRM tool is great for managing investors, but they really need help finding the right targets to go after. So we built this investor search tool based on it's built on top of AngelList API, and launched it last Friday, and it's been getting some good reaction.
Wow, congratulations. I think that's a very important tool you built there. So that's the thing that kind of works together. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. And then, number three you say here was interesting. I wanted to ask you about this because you said build ancillary experiments. So what does that mean?
Yeah, so our vision is to hack the entrepreneurial process, turn it into software, um, which is a very fun kind of vision, very fun mission to have. And of course, we are a startup ourselves. So a great way to think of new ideas to build is to say, what do I need? What do I need that it's not that I can't buy, that's not being done adequately or in a good way out there? And one of our first products is I was starting to reach out to the media, some bloggers, some journalists, and I was just keeping notes in a Word file, and it got really messy, it got really cluttered. I had nothing that was prompting me to follow up. So we came up with this idea of a media CRM tool, which is a really simple way to track journalists, brainstorm story ideas and pitches, and log your pitches with some CRM. So, basically building the ancillary product, it's like, all right, we start by asking, what do we need? What do our users, what are they asking us for? And then kind of build around that.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean that makes a lot of sense to me. I mean, especially when you're giving all these guys a way to manage multiple contacts, search for for things they need. I mean, that's why they call it Foundersuite. Okay, I got it now. But but number four, you said tie it all together in an intuitive way, and this could be tough, huh?
Yeah, this is tough, and it's a challenge. I don't know if we've. I don't think I can say we've completely solved this challenge yet, because we have now five tools, five apps in the suite, and then we also have a collection of templates.
Mm.
Um, I think we're getting better at presenting this and helping our users navigate, finding what they need. Um, basically, if you're building lots of stuff, the risk is that your users will get lost when they come to the site and not know what to do, right? It's kind of the analysis or paralysis by too many choice, paradox of choice thing. Um, so how do you simplify the site such that when new users come to the site, they can kind of identify exactly what they need and find what they need? Um, Lots of different ways to do this. We're thinking of some different ways. Right now, basically, we're just grouping tools by activities like getting started, raising capital, marketing, media, stuff like that. Um, Pretty soon, within, I don't want to jinx it, but within about 2 or 3 months, we'll have a more cohesive dashboard that will make it all more intuitive, I think.
But yeah, I think that's part of the problem, right? I mean, I think what you're trying to solve is the problem you're trying to solve is really there's all these sources and really kind of siloed sources in a lot of way. Angel List is kind of good, but it's just a list. I mean, and it grows by the day, right? So how do that? And so you've tapped into their API and started to really use their data in a useful way. It sounds like, and then how do I even start? So I mean, it's pretty good. I think I like your approach here. And we'll talk a little bit about why I think what your approach could be really approach to any kind of startup. But let's talk about the tactical view, and you kind of boil it
Sure.
down. You kind of boil it down in a list, and I kind of want to go over that list with you real quick here. So you said start with a thesis. What does the world need, and what can be done, right? That's how I think a lot of people start, right?
Yeah, I mean, I can't, think about or think about many hot startups like the founding stories of Dropbox or Box, and these guys were building something to solve a problem that they were facing themselves. They built it for themselves, basically. Um, and I think that's a great way to do it. It's hard to guess what people want. If you can identify what you want, what do you need? What do you think people like you in the world need? That's the starting point for a thesis, right? In our case, we're looking for manual processes that can be done better with software, or that can be automated with workflow and data. In many cases, I'm replacing the Excel spreadsheet. I'm replacing how people are doing things with spreadsheets and docs. So
Yeah.
that's step one. Start with a thesis, right? What do you need? What does the world need?
Right. Then next you talk about gauge demand and test initial reaction with mockups and wireframe. Basically, you're kind of testing the market. Will it work, right? CNF, whatever you want to call it, right?
Yeah, this is, I have a friend who's at the Lean Startup Conference right now. So there's 4 days of discussion about this going on up at the Fairmont, I think. 10 hours a day, 4 days in a row. But I think that the nut of that entire thesis is put something out there, get some feedback on it, see if anyone would actually buy it before building it. get some positive thumbs up, um, and then help refine the vision a little bit.
Yeah, I know that on a couple things that I've worked on, we decided really early to make a very simple version that kind of tests the concept and get some reactions along the way. And I like that what you just said is that approach, because I think it allows you to test a thesis, like you said, test initial reaction to what you're trying to do, and
Yeah.
get some feedback. I mean, that's the main thing, right? So you could actually iterate your product a little bit more. So I like that. And then just like the product development that I'm used to, CNF goes into alpha, right? So alpha is really what you would call what you think the product should be, right?
Yeah, this is one of these tricky things because I think it makes a lot of sense to mock something up, maybe make a clickable design, make even just some rough sketches and wireframes, and start to get feedback on that, see if anyone would like it. But there's still a gap between showing someone designs and they say, yeah, I'd use it, or no, I wouldn't, and showing them something they can actually use, right? So I don't think you can completely rely on the feedback that you get at the design phase. You have to build something that people can actually sit in front of, click around, push buttons, and then see if they would actually still use it, right? Um, so bottom line, making some really quick and dirty alpha that works. This is sort of the minimum viable product or minimal functional product. Um, Ideally, it's bug-free. It solves the core problem you're trying to solve, but nothing more, right? No bells
Yeah.
and whistles or design
Right.
necessarily on top
Pure
of that.
functionality at this point, core functionality.
Totally.
And then,
Yeah.
yeah, next you talk about what I'm used to, and again, in the product development world called beta. Release it into the wild and absorb feedback. I like that when you said that. Release it into the wild, but it's really true. You don't know who's going to use it, right?
Yeah, this is something I'm still learning how to do this the best way. Not an expert on it. Over the summer, uh, we started to do this more often, more in a better, more systematic way. We actually would bring people into the office, buy them some Noah's bagels, and just put them in front of the product. really without many instructions or explanations of what to do, and really see how people use it and get the feedback, because it's so much more powerful to watch and learn than it is to just ask people who are using it, remotely, what they think. So um, yeah, so that's kind of our next step, is to really get that deep feedback. And people like to be, it's funny, people seem to like to be guinea pigs or test subjects. There's something kind of thrilling in it, that they're the first eyes on a new product. So
No, no, I agree with you. I think the beta phase I always found in product development is a real critical phase. You could test a lot of what your theories were in alpha with real subjects, right? So, and then you have the ability, software is great. I worked on a lot of hardware, so you couldn't iterate as fast as software, but software is cool because, in apps and everything, you could iterate quickly, actually, when you find
yeah,
either a bug or a problem or a process issue that of a flow that you didn't expect the user to do, you could fix that rather quickly, and then test tendencies, like you said, I think in your article. So that was kind of cool what you said there. Um, and then I guess again, progressively, you said next is to yet selectively, which is I thought it was kind of interesting, develop new versions. So like, can you explain your thinking behind that statement?
yeah. So if your practice, or if your business, especially if you're building multiple products like we are, if you're building a suite, or if you're building a couple different things, um, even if you say have four products that all get the thumbs up from users, they might not have all the same weight and impact for your users. So in our case, we're pouring more and more resources into the investor CRM and update tools. We haven't done quite as much in the media CRM because people use it. We're kind of slowly growing that one and improving it. Um, so long story short, we're basically, as I mentioned in the article, we're watering the flowers that are blooming, and letting some just kind of remain as they are. And at some point, we'll start to actually prune and cut out things. But again, it's kind of a planting multiple seeds, helping them flourish, but then trimming back, or at least letting go fallow the ones that aren't really seeing customer adoption. So
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting because you kind of when you were talking about the previous thing we were talking about was kind of releasing in a while and sort of feedback, which is I always thought with beta, but you kind of this next one you talked about is kind of another beta almost. I thought it's because you're growing your user base at the same time, so you haven't
yeah,
got to that point where it's ramped. Right. So, but really, you're starting to get user feedback. You're starting to get the use cases down pretty well for your software or your product. So I
yeah,
thought that was kind of interesting what you were saying. It's kind of almost another second beta or second validation, of what your first version was going to be almost, but it is going to iterate. And then the next one you said was interesting. You said streamline, don't bloat. So talk about that one from your learnings.
yeah. This is something, again, I'm learning on a daily basis. Usually, learning the hard way, because someone will say I was using this and then I quit because it was too many screens or too many clicks, or the process was
Yeah, exactly.
cumbersome. And so it was a great kind of epiphany to look at our products with fresh eyes and look at where we can really cut out steps, where we can simplify. I mean, the best products are so simple, you don't even notice the simplicity. So, for example, it was our investor update tool. We had something like 4 or 5 steps to go through to ship out a investor update.
Mm.
And then people were just kind of running, 2/3 of the way through and abandoning it because it was too much. And so we've streamlined into 3 steps, and that's really helped adoption. And I think you can do that in a lot of ways, right? Every time you can remove, addition by subtraction kind of thing. every time you can remove the product and make it either faster, more efficient, or quicker to get to the end result, that's what you want to do. Simple as that. So
Yeah.
it's a shift in mental. It's like not what can we add to this product, because you're still doing some of that based on feedback, but it's a shift from what can we add to what can we strip out and still have a good, better product.
Right, and it kind of matches kind of the next statement you make, which is the iterative process of test, measure, call the herd, test, measure, call the herd. I guess you can keep on going right there, right?
Yeah, this is in the plan. Like I mentioned, we haven't actually killed off any products right now. We still have the five that we built. We started with three, added two more, and we still have five. But eventually, as we continue to grow and build new things, I want to also bake into our DNA the ability to to kill. That sounds kind of funny, but
No,
I
that's
think
good.
you see this. You used to see this at least with some of the mobile and social game makers, right? Zynga is a good example. They would put out products at a pretty rapid rate, and ones that weren't the hit, they were disciplined in killing off the games rather than pouring more resources at them. So I think it's a good philosophy to have.
No, I think it is. I think on the hardware side, to kind of, match the software side that you're talking about, we had to sunset products when it was time that we didn't have the resources to develop anymore.
Yeah,
So there's that trade-off. If you're using the same resources to keep a product alive, but you need more resources to develop a new product, guess what? You got to make that hard call. And
sure.
it may mean that the pruning that you were talking about earlier goes into another product and it takes another form. So I think that's really cool what you said. Actually, I could really identify with that. So anyway, let's shift to a kind of a more business strategic approach to what we were just talking about in terms of multiple products at a development of in a startup. What are the advantages for a multi-product strategy that you have?
Yeah, building things that people want is harder than it might look. Even with all the customer interviews and the lean startup methodologies and customer development, it can still be hard to build what people want. So, I use the metaphor here: more shots on goal equals more overall goals. I mean, putting things out there and seeing what sticks. The more you put out there, the more chances you have of finding something that's really innovative and that people love. So, um, that's one of the advantages of building multiple products. Um, I think another pretty intuitive or obvious one is that if you're building products in the way I described earlier, starting with kind of an anchor tenant, building ancillary products around that, it creates a great, upsell or cross-sell potential. Um, in a perfect scenario, we just released this last week, but in a perfect scenario, someone discovers us using the investor search tool, finds investors, puts them into investor CRM, manages the fundraise, successfully fundraises, and then moves on to investor tracker, investor relations. So you kind of, grow with them, upsell, cross-sell, from multiple angles. Um, I think also we haven't done this as much yet, but if you have, multiple products, now you have multiple reasons to reach out to bloggers, journalists, media. You're not just a one-trick pony. You have a couple different things. As a very, simple example, I will often ping journalists who are writing about, say, AngelList and early stage funding, because we have some great products for that. On another topic, there was a blog post, I think it was yesterday, about ways to generate new ideas for startups. And we have a tool for that. So I was able to reach out on a completely separate topic to a separate set of journalists and audience because we have a tool built around that. So more products means you have more kind of ammunition for marketing. And then, finally, this remains to be seen over the long run. But I think if you have a lot of stuff that you can bundle together in a cohesive way, ours are all startup tools for early stage companies, growth companies. There's a lot of perceived value. Maybe you come in to Foundersuite only because you need an investor search tool, but when you're getting a lot of other great stuff along with that, it's a bonus. And I think people have an emotional reaction to that. It's kind of the I don't want to put myself in this category, but it's kind of the same marketing techniques that late night TV, infomercials would have. But wait, there's more. Buy the rotisserie chicken and also get these Ginsu knives and all that stuff. It connects with people somehow. So.
No, no, you're absolutely right. I think that was pretty funny analogy though. But I think that was pretty good. But no, I think everything you said here from the strategic point of view is very true. I mean, the perceived value, the ability to do multiple marketing angles for and cross-selling opportunities. But I think what you said in this whole thing, you could do all these things. You just have to be very careful, and it's tough. I mean, you're a startup that's basically acting almost like a sales force. So, you know, it's not easy, but it's doable. So I think that's kind of cool.
Doable. It's
Yeah.
doable. There's such a the reason I wrote that article, is there's such it's almost kind of a contrarian view to be working on multiple things at once. There's so much emphasis, especially it's sort of like the group think in Silicon Valley that to be successful you have to pick one very narrow sliver and just focus on that. And I think there's obviously some great logic behind that, especially if you're tackling really huge problems. Um, but it doesn't apply to everyone. People shouldn't feel they have to abide by that business model if that's not what they're doing.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, anyway, we'll close off the interview here. I think you gave us a lot of pearls of wisdom and gave me a lot of reflection back to my product days. So, but anyway, I
Cool.
yeah, I appreciate that. So, how can people get a hold of you and get a hold of FounderSuite?
Yeah, thanks. So Foundersuite is simply www.foundersuite.com. That's FOUNDERSUITE.com. And there's a freemium version, so you can get started. You can work indefinitely, completely free. There's some functionality that's limited in the free version, but we have a free version, a pro version, and a team version. The pro is 29 a month, and team is 59 a month. And we'd love people to try it out. We've got some great tools in there. And of course, if you have any feedback or any questions, you can reach me. I'm simply Nathan at foundersuite.com. Would love to hear from you. And that's it. Thanks for having me. Really
No
appreciate it.
problem. No, no. Anyway, yeah, you really appreciate it as well. And especially at the short notice, you guys don't realize how short this was. But anyway, that was Nathan Becker, CEO, co-founder of FounderSuite, who I met at SF Newtek years ago when he was with another company actually. So this is Greg Gloria, aka Social Gray, on Twitter for the Nerd Stalker Media Network. We believe in tech, startups, design, and you. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and be careful out there. Hey, have a good evening, Nathan.
Thanks, Greg. Appreciate it.